look at all those beautiful people. Neha, are you with me?
Yes, I am. Oh my God. Like, huh? Hi.
All right. So, welcome to today's panel, which is like low key a new series. So, we're introducing kind of a dev's journey. So, into just someone in a specific discipline. So, today's guest is Neha Patel, audio designer. What's your official title, Neha, that you want to go for?
I'm a composer sound designer, the two in
Cool,
one.
cool. Hi, everyone. Okay, so we'll start the event now. So, hello, Neha. It's good to have you. I'm so excited to spend the next hour just
I'm so
talking about
happy.
audio.
Yay. Thanks for having me here.
Yay!
Really happy.
So, we'll dive right in. So, please introduce yourself and all that jazz, and then we'll go from there.
Okie dokie. So, hi everyone. My name is Neha. I go by at Neha Patel on Twitter. I am a composer sound designer and I am also a freelancer. I think I started in game dev about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I was still in school. So I've started as a freelancer and I have stayed as a freelancer. And I only work in indie video game projects. So, recently I've been working on Venba, which is a cooking narrative game about an Indian mother that immigrated to Canada in the 1980s. It is not based off of my mom, surprisingly, but I get to do the sound design on that and just a weird amount of coincidences. And I could talk about that later of how I got these gigs. So my latest one is Venba. I'm also worked on a few games for the Playdate. Lost Your Marbles, Recommendation Dog. I'm working as a contract sound designer for a game called Eternights, which was on the last PlayStation State of Play, I believe. And I'm also writing the music for Six Ages, the sequel, which is called Lights Going Out. So as you can see, I'm doing a little bit of composing, a bit of sound designing, a lot of implementation. So I also use Wise. I work a little bit in Unity. I don't know how to code, but I do know how to implement audio. So how the hell did I get into freelance game audio? So I actually went to school for classical piano. I am a trained pianist. I went to McGill and I did my bachelor's in classical piano. And I think I graduated in 2018. But I always knew that I wanted to do like something in like working in audio for video games. But like there isn't a school program called "Hey, composer for video games." That wasn't a thing, and especially not like in Montreal where I was. Um, so I was like, you know what? Let's do the next best thing, and let's get really good at piano and try to learn how to compose and stuff on the side. Which is what
Mhm.
I did. So while I was going to school, I also did a lot of game jams. Game jams are great. They have their pluses and their minuses. I don't recommend overdoing it. I think I was doing at least a game jam a month, which was very tiring. But at least it gave me this little portfolio of like, hey, I can write music in this short amount of time. I'm also a self-taught sound designer. I never learned sound design in school. I think I learned most of it just through jamming and out of sheer necessity. Um, you don't have to be a sound designer to be in game audio. But in my case, I started off as a composer and I started sound designing by needs of projects. And I realized, hey, I actually really enjoy sound designing. And that's not the case for everybody. But in my case, it worked out that I loved both writing music and sound design. So that's here I am doing both. Um, so from those game jams that I was doing while in school, I also started getting involved a lot in the game audio community. So a little context here. I was born and raised in Montreal. That means that it is a big game dev hub. My parents paid for my education, and I'm a cis woman with that's able-bodied. So I had a lot of privileges in those ways where I could go out a lot. I could game jam. I could attend all these events because I live in the city, right? So I started off by actually Googling game dev meetups in Montreal because here I am doing classical music at McGill, practicing 3 or 4 hours a day. And in school, like it wasn't accepted to talk about video games at all. It was very conservatory style, so I couldn't really talk about what I wanted to do to teachers or people. Um, so yeah, I started Googling stuff and I found out about this place that is now closed, but it used to be called Gameplay Space. Um,
Rest in
Rest in
peace.
peace. So yes, so I found out about these local events by sheer Googling. I also found out this was during my undergrad of in 2018. I was again Googling game how to become video game composer at like 2 a.m. And I found this scholarship to attend GDC. It's by the Game Audio Network Guild, so GANG for short, and they offer
Game
scholarship.
on.
Yeah, I could just
Okay.
like type it out in the chat. Game
Yeah.
Audio Network Guild. If you just Google
Thank
it,
you.
you'll find their website and stuff. But they
Thank
used
you.
to have these, and they still have them actually, these scholarships to attend GDC specifically for students and for those that have like recently graduated and are just starting into the in the game audio business. So while in school, I applied for that, and I got in, and I got accepted. I had a full right to go to GDC for free. They paid for the pass, and there was a scholarship at McGill to help us with travel expenses if you're going to a conference or a musical event. Somehow GDC got counted in that. So apply even though you think you might not get in, but just apply. And and
Always
that's
apply.
how always apply. That's a big thing I learned was that even if you think you're not suited, just apply. So I had a free pass and my travel expenditures for the most part were paid. And that's how, as a student, I got to go to GDC. And that was definitely a life-changing experience. Now, I do have my issues with GDC of how expensive it is, and you don't have to go to these events. But that is how I accidentally started. That's also where I met a lot of the game audio community, and it was amazing. So one thing that I find is very distinct between game audio and perhaps other fields in video games is that we are a very, very tight-knit community. And I was very shocked. I came from classical music, which is cutthroat, which is competitive, which is almost backstabby, like it's rough. And to feel this area where senior people were just talking to me or giving me respect, giving me time of day, and people were trying to help out was shocking, and I loved it. I absolutely loved the feeling of the community. And then I found out about the game audio community in Montreal. So I will type this out. We have it's bi-monthly once every 2 months. Anyways, that the word for once every 2 months. Um, we have game audio meetups in Montreal. It's called Interactive Audio Montreal, or to shorten it up, IAM. It is organized by a friend of mine. His name is Maximilien Simard-Poirier. He works at Audio Kinetic, not related, but he started these meetups. Um, and yeah, so as I was in school, I started getting involved in the broader audio community, like worldwide, right? So people I met at GDC, people there were Slack groups, there were these little communities online, and then I got involved in the local community, one with GPS, which is Gameplay Space, where it was a group of indie devs that worked there, but they also had monthly showcases and play testing stuff. And I just went to all of these events. And I also got involved in the local audio community. So I think the moral of the story here is that I was involved a lot in the community. Um, and so my first gig actually was because a friend from the community recommended me. So here I am in school. 2018, I finished my undergrad. Yay, I finished my bachelor's in piano. Woohoo!
Ooh.
Yay! And then I started a master's program also in Montreal at a different school. and things went weird. It was supposed to be a 2-year program, and suddenly, after the first year, for reasons I'm not going to go into, I had to quit. And I was not expecting that at all. I thought I had a whole other year to prepare my portfolio, to prepare like my life, right? But here I am, May 2019, and I have nothing. I just quit school. I don't have a real job. Like there's nothing going on. Um, so what do I do? Well, I got myself involved a lot online. I got myself even more involved in person with jams and events and whatever. I just networked a lot. And I think the key here was when I network, it's not like, hey, give me a job. Hey, here's my business card. I haven't used the business card since 2018. It's more like I just want to meet these people. I'm a brown woman from a conservative culture. I didn't get to talk about video games with people. Then I went to study classical music, and it wasn't very much accepted. I I just went to these events to make friends, to feel a little less lonely, and it worked. Like, I think there are types of people when you network. Sorry, I'm going on a little networking rant here, but when
Do it.
they're
Do
just
it.
they're just there to get a job. I call them like hungry people because it feels like they don't really care about you. They just want the next gig, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that, and I feel weird personally. Um, and it's perhaps a little naive for me to say this, but I was just down to, yeah, meet these really cool people and the really cool games people were working on. Like, it was freaking fabulous. Those monthly play tests that I got to go, like, see, I love them. I never got a single job from them, but I loved the fact that I could see these cool games being made. So, anyways, that was my networking rant. But then, hey, we want the good stuff, right? How the hell did you get a job? So,
Mhm.
while I was in school, I got my very first gig, and I'm saying this with like a quotation mark, I guess, where I was kind of like hired to do the music for the Kickstarter page and for the trailer video. So that first game is called, I'm gonna type it out. The Kickstarter page is still alive, I believe. So the game is called Spleen, and it's by Pamplemousse Games. Wait, I'm misspelling this. Pamplemousse means grapefruit in French, so they are a French team in Montreal. Well, like Québécois team. So the people at Pamplemousse, I owe them a lot. They took a big risk. I mean, it was a small studio. There are only 2 people, a programmer, the artist. There was a sound designer, but currently I am the sound design. I'm doing the sound design, and he recommended me because we're well friends. And yeah, this was my first thing, and it gave me a little bit of confidence of like, oh my God, I could do this. Somebody believes in me. And how did I get this job? Well, it was as simple as the sound designer on that team, well, the former sound designer on that team knew that we needed a composer, and they couldn't afford someone very experienced. And here I was coming to all these audio events and coming to all these things and being kind and just friendly, and I liked writing stuff, and he was like, hey, I like her stuff, and her personality is cool, so let's see if this works out. And what was cool with them was that they didn't just hire me for the entire game. They were like, hey, can you write the music for the Kickstarter? Can you write the music for the trailer? So it was a small bit of work. And that's how it worked out, and they loved what I did, and they kept me on. Sadly, this game, we're back on it right now. It just went on a little hiatus because pandemic and life, but we're definitely back on it right now. The second game I worked on, so this was all summer 2019, was called Mini Maker. Uh, make
Mini
uh,
maker.
make a thing. And this game, it was the exact same story. A friend who was not working on the project, but that knew people on the team, um, knew that that team was looking for an audio person to do the sound design and the music. And that person recommended me. I had an interview. I did a little soundboard, and that was it. I got that gig. Um, Mini Maker was really cool because I was actually an audio director on that project. So I did like the whole entirety of the musical, well, soundboard, the mood board, the direction itself, the implementation. This was my first full scale, like proper game where we have, regular stand-ups and Jiras and Agile and Confluence and all this cool like game dev stuff. It felt like, oh wow, I'm an adult now. Um, So yeah,
It-
Mini Maker was again a friend recommendation. Um, and while I'm doing this, I'm also a lot on Twitter. So this is gonna sound weird, but I when I went to GDC, everyone like right before going to GDC, people had told me to get on Twitter, get on Twitter. Like all of game dev, indie game dev is on Twitter, and I'm like, ew, not another social media. Like ew, I only have Facebook, and even then I hate it. But I forced myself because I am an actual introvert and I don't like online social media stuff. But I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll make this account and I'll just follow cool audio people. But little behold, like to my surprise, there's a huge community on Twitter. This is pre-Elon crap, so I don't know what's anyways. But I don't even know what to say. But there's a huge community, and I see someone saying I could never get into Twitter, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, I know, me too. Uh, but then Twitter has actually been my biggest source of income. And I would sometimes joke tweet that I've learned more on Twitter than my 3 years of undergrad. Um, and I mean, this, but like it really helped. I mean, I was told to use the hashtag game audio. So I started typing that and trying to follow like cool people or whatever. And like my circle just, grew from that. I was too scared to post anything. Like, oh my God, all I did was like or follow. And my tippy toe into like Twitter was to retweet. I was like, oh my God, I'm retweeting. Wow, I'm a social media. Um, and so it took a lot, like just mentally. But then I tricked myself, right? I'm like, okay, well, I kind of want to be noticed too. So I would post little like audio samples, little music pieces, little this, little that. And it's not like it had a lot of traction or anything. But it was like a practice for me to post. Um, and it was just for me to like feel less scared because this is not something I like. And then the more I did it, it was like practicing an instrument. The more you did it, the better it kind of got. And I guess I kind of made friends on Twitter, which is really weird because I've never had like online friends like that. I'm just not that kind of person. I don't like it. But I actually made really genuine friends. And something else that I noticed was that there were a lot of job postings on Twitter. This is before Work With Indies. I love you guys. But this was yeah, way before Work With Indies, and there was a crap ton of positions or just people like either giving advice, people looking for people, stuff. I just happened to see stuff on Twitter. It also happened that I spent way too much time on it, but hey, that's what happens.
I mean, it's hard, right? Like putting yourself out there and just like, oh, like I'm gaining like new friends, like I should just continue, and then like you become a lot more vocal on these social medias that you use, and like it just becomes like this cycle of just like forever online. So I totally get
Yeah,
it.
it is forever online. I love that. I mean, we should tone it down, but it's okay. Yeah, so there's just this weird community that I really fell in love with. So here I am now. We're like what, 2019. I'm out of school. I'm on Twitter a lot. I have one or two little jobs, mini maker spleen, but they don't, it's not a full-time job, right? It's game audio, and I'm a junior too. So the pay wasn't great. So now let's get into the realities of freelancing, right? So my position as a freelancer came by accident. It was because I didn't plan to be a freelancer. It just happened that I quit school and I had no job, and like Ubisoft wasn't gonna hire me, somebody with no experience and just game jams, right? Um, so I kind of accidentally fell in it, but it turns out that I loved it. Uh, and now thing is, you're not in school anymore, right? You kind of have to make money.
Yeah.
So what did I do? Because game audio was not paying the bills at all. And I think that's a major reality in game audio is that it will most likely not pay your bills, especially not at the start. I was teaching piano quite a bit, and that was my main source of income. My apartment was paid by my piano teaching, not by game audio. And another thing was that I lived with my parents until 2019. So everything, again, rent, there was no rent to pay. My education was paid for. So this is what I mean by transparency, is that because I'm Canadian, our school fees were I'm in Quebec especially, our tuition fees are the cheapest in the entire country. So all of this is very affordable in some way. I was able to financially take the risk of not having a job. Like, I did not have to look for a 40-hour job right there, right then. There's also the fact that rent is very, very cheap. Especially, I moved to Quebec City, which is 3 hours away from Montreal, and rent that first year, I had 3 roommates, and I think I paid $400 a month, everything included. That's 400 Canadian. That is very, very cheap. So that's kind of why I wanted to freelance and stayed in freelance, was that I was in a situation where I could afford this, where my piano teaching was my main source of income, and where I could be on, chronically online and try to, like, sneak my way through to stuff or try to find out about things and learn online. Was because my financial realities were such that I didn't have to worry about, like, healthcare or my student debt, because I didn't have any. So that was really important to me. And then I had a lot of downtime. And I think that hurt me the most when I was, like, at the beginning of this, was that I just didn't have enough work. And it was kind of depressing. So personally for me, I had to learn to just calm down and manage my expectations. Because something I learned a lot with downtime was that I'm like, oh my God, I have so much time. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to learn blueprints in Unreal. I'm going to learn how to code, and I'm going to become a professional field recorder. That is, like, insane. And it's just not going to happen. And then thinking that I can achieve all of that, and when I failed to do so, was very demoralizing. So, and, like, you have all this time, so you feel like you must be doing this, right? But it's just not true. Like, and I wish somebody was there to tell me that you can't be doing all of it, that maybe I should be making a little list of, like, smaller tasks, of little things that are achievable, rather than I'm going to learn all of this because I have the time. So that's my little rant about managing downtime, was, yes, give yourself little tasks, but don't expect yourself to go like, hey, I'm going to learn how to, like, do blueprints in Unreal. I'm
No,
like, yeah.
it's a great lesson. It's a great lesson to, like, tell, like, everyone that, like, downtime doesn't mean that, like, you're being useless, right? But, like, at the same time, you, like, don't start to do, like, a 24-hour, like, oh no, I must be busy at all times. Like, that will destroy you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, you shouldn't feel guilty that you're not doing game audio 24/7 or, like, 40 hours a week. Because, God, I was doing, and there is absolutely no shame in doing jobs in other fields. Like, I know some people, like, look down on it, like, oh my God, you're working as, XYZ, and that's not even related to game audio. And I'm like, oh my God, it pays the bill. Like, shut up. You could say that my piano teaching, it's musical, yeah, but it wasn't, like, helping me with my career directly. Absolutely not. But it paid the bills. And that in turn did help my career, right? So I am doing something for my career. It's just not the way you see it. So yeah, I don't worry about not having a full-time job in game audio, because especially as a freelancer, because you will most likely not have it. And it's sad to say, but yeah, I mean, you will have it, just not at the very beginning. So then, yes, I was working on, let's go back to the projects, right? I was working on Spleen, but that was on a little, sorry, what's that word when, hiatus, yes. That was on a
Hiatus, yeah.
hiatus. So I had no work for Spleen, and I only had Mini Maker. But again, that was just a couple hours a week, and money-wise, it wasn't cutting it. So I just stayed online a lot, and I was part of several game audio Slack groups, and I would apply. Oh my God, I must have applied to hundreds of like positions. And I know people keep these folders sometimes of all their rejections, and I'm like, I don't have time to make this folder because there's way too many rejections. So with game audio, it is how do you say contingenté in English?
Déjanté, oh my God.
Contingenté.
Oh,
It's
we're
like
being French right now.
sorry, we're French or Quebecois French. It's like when there's a lot of competition, I guess. Like,
yeah, something like
sorry,
that.
my
Let's
brain
see.
is not working.
Let's see. Let's see. English, déjanté, English. Stand by, chat. Déjanté. uh,
Contingenté is
so
like,
off the wall.
wait, what? That makes no sense.
What? That's
No.
me.
No, okay. I take the word back. I mean, that's the awful translation. Contingenté, it means like,
Oversaturated. Yeah, I think is a good term
yeah,
way
that's
of
closer. It's like
accent.
when a
Yeah.
billion people apply, there's only 3 spots, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So, anyways, game audio is very oversaturated. There's a lot of people and very few jobs. And I mean, it kind of makes sense structurally, right? Like, how many composers worked on Assassin's Creed? How many composers worked on Celeste? There's one usually, right?
Yeah.
And okay, there might be a couple of sound designers if you're on a big project, but for a small indie project, usually it's just one person doing it all. Whereas, like, if you look at the amount of programmers or artists on that set project, it's usually very different. Um,
Yeah, there's like
so
a
it is,
team,
yeah.
right?
There's a team, yeah. So like for indie games, I was getting rejected left and right. I was also getting rejected by AAA left and right. But that I expected. But the indie stuff that hurt because it's like, but I'm trying. And yeah, I guess it's just like mm, I think I managed to get numb to rejections. And oftentimes you won't even hear from them. And that's just something, and I don't agree with it. I think it's really crappy that, you're left in the abyss. But for your own mental health, and this worked for me, was just to go numb. Or rather, just accept that, hey, don't have high expectations. If it works out, cool, but manage your expectations. Because that disappointment hurts more than the rejection itself.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I would add that like most indie teams are very small. So like that person that is like looking through like resumes will probably be also the one that makes like I don't know payroll and also maybe
oh,
like a
yeah.
little bit of HR and maybe like oh maybe it's the designer. So like they'll have more than one job already. So like they don't necessarily have time to write like rejection letters to
Mhm.
everyone. And like it's unfortunate, but like that's the real like most of the reality for indie games.
Yeah, yeah, it hurts, but I mean, it's also not their fault where they're also, stretched thin.
Yeah.
So just don't take it personally if you're not like, if you got rejected or if you're not hearing back from them, it's not you. Uh, it's just the reality of the industry right now. Um, so yeah, so we're in 2019 and I'm still trying to, I'm applying vigorously. I'm teaching piano to pay the bills and I'm working on, I'm still working on my skills. I would do some redesigns. I would still try to do game jams a lot. I would still, what else did I do? I just talked online for different jobs and stuff constantly. I,
And Neha,
yes.
can you specify what redesign mean?
Oh yeah, it's like so for me, when you want to practice sound design, or I guess this could work for music too, but you take like a small recording, like video recording of whatever scene you like. Maybe don't take something too famous because like people have heard it so many times that if you rescore it, it'll sound weird. But I don't know, it could be a short film, it could be a video game section, it could be whatever you want. Take a little 30-second clip, record it with OBS or whatever and then mute the sound and do your own sound design over it.
Oh,
So
that
if you're
sounds so
like,
fun.
yeah, I mean, like, cause like you can't just like that's kind of how your portfolio works. You don't born with like a video game to score an original video game to score, right? Whether it be sound
Yeah.
design or music, and like here is my video game, it's mine. No, you need a video game. Um, So that's why in most cases, including my own reel, a lot of it was just I think I took a scene from Doom and I just redid the sound for that. And hey, if you have like actual like recordings of your like if you can film your own game that you made during a game jam and it sounds cool, hey, do that. But in most cases, like the game itself isn't appropriate to showcase your skills, right? So you would do a redesign of a scene that you like and put that in your portfolio. Um,
Like that's
so
really
yeah.
smart.
Oh yeah, another resource actually. If you're a freelancer in game audio, I hope you have a reel. You absolutely need, a portfolio, a reel, something. Um,
Can
and
you
if you wanna,
explain what a reel is? Sorry, I just
oh
like
yeah,
just to like set expectations. Most of our audience are like looking to break into like the audio industry in games. So like maybe they don't necessarily know what a reel is.
yes.
Um, yeah, thank you.
So reel, REEL, is like your portfolio basically. It for video game we highly recommend that it be under 1 minute and 30 seconds, no longer than that, because people just do not have time. So you can take various things. It could be 30 seconds from Doom, 30 seconds from Sonic, and 30 seconds from some other game. It could be one single game. Depends what you want to do, right? Um, but take something that can showcase your skills really well. So let's say you're like, yo, I'm good at sci-fi sounds. Like that's my jam. Then take a scene from a sci-fi-ish game. I personally loved gore, so I took Doom because I just really like gore. Um, so if gore is your thing, then take a little, snippet of something that's from a gore like game and redesign that. And for more specifics on like setting up your website or how, like the presentation itself of your reel, there's a really, really good resource, and it's from the folks of Power Up Audio. They did the sound design of Celeste, Tunic, and a whole bunch of really cool games. They're based in Vancouver. Uh, and they have sorry I'm typing they have these videos on Twitch called Real Talk, and that's where people submit their website or their little portfolio, and they'll review it, and they review it very, very well. And personally, when I wanted to make my own reel, I first watched a couple of videos. Oh yay, thank you for posting that.
Thank you. Yeah, chat is like it knows what you're talking about
Y'all are great.
immediately.
But I think I watched like 5, 6 of these just to get an idea of what kind of criticism people got. Because oftentimes people get similar criticism or like similar comments. I'm like, okay, that's what they like, that's what they don't like. That's where I learned that hey, it should be under 1 minute and 30. Um, so check them out. It's a great resource. I think they do it every 2 weeks or every month or so. So yeah, during my downtime, I made up a portfolio, so I had that ready. I did a really crappy website using Wix. I actually still do use Wix, and my website is still very ugly, but it does the job. Um, so I would say no need on making it super fancy, but make it accessible and make it, showcase your work. So yeah, sorry, I'm ranting, but to go back to that,
We love rants. We love rants in this house. Everything is
yay.
good.
So yeah, I was chronically online looking for jobs and whatever, and I was making a lot of friends online, and a friend had recommended me, an online friend this time, not a real like life person, an online friend had recommended me for a job that she couldn't take. So oftentimes this happens in game audio where game audio friends are great because like when they are busy, they like recommend somebody else that they know, and that's why the community is so tight knit. But they recommended me for a job that they couldn't do, and that was for the Playdate. So that's how I got started there. And then here's the big one, and that's Venba. So I was following Venba before they went viral on Wholesome Games. So like way back when, and I remember just like really, really loving their content. And again, I'm a very shy person. I never had the guts to like DM them and go like, "Hey, do you need audio for this game?" Because like, oh my God, that is terrifying, right? I just have never been able to do that, but I would comment down on their like posts and stuff because it was just so relatable and it was so well done. And they were very nice. And we just started like each other commenting like on our posts a lot for a couple of months. And then one day they DM me on Twitter and they're like, "Hey, um, are you free for like some sound design work?" And the rest is history. I was ecstatic. So that was my first big job from Twitter. Actually, that is not true. I lied. I forgot. There was one before that, and that was Eternights. And the person that does the audio from Eternights is a company called Serial Lab Sound. And one of the co-founders, her name is Gina. And she had just randomly posted on Twitter, "Hey, we're looking for a new sound designer contract for a game we're working on. It's a Persona style hack and slash RPG game. Please send your, please answer to this email." So I just I sent her an email going, "Hey, this is my reel, blah, blah, blah." And they were like, "Hey, we love your stuff. This works out." So I started doing a lot of work for them. And that was just because I saw that one tweet at the right time. So that was a big job, a big amount of work. That helped a lot. And again, I'm still teaching piano, and I'm still pretty poor. like I'm only financially stable now, and that's 3 years in. So it was rough. I did not like buy stuff. I bought very little gear. I just kept my costs to a very minimum. Um, and yeah, so I got that job with Gina, and that helped a lot. But the thing with that job is that I couldn't talk about it. It was an NDA. So even though I had like a pretty big game that I'm working on, I can't talk about it, right? So that really sucked. And it didn't help that, I can't use it to apply to other jobs. Um, but that was that. And then Venba, that worked out. And from Venba, I got more traction online. I was also doing a lot of panels and talks, not for the sake of doing them, but I have this really big fascination about monetizing game audio, or rather like OSTs and stuff. So I was doing a lot of research on that. I was talking a lot about that. So I got invited to speak to stuff. And that helped a lot with visibility. And that's kind of how it flowed down. I feel like that's a little lame answer of like, yeah, a friend recommended me for this job. Twitter is about maybe 50 to 70% of my income. And the last 20 to 30% has been Slack references. So that's how I got my gigs. Uh, it
That's
was
amazing. Like, like it's
But it's
such a
very
unique.
contextual, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
like I could only do this because rent is cheap. I could only do this because like I had other jobs because like yeah. And I mean the pandemic did not help, right? That was a big slap in the face. Uh but yeah. I wonder if people
yeah.
have questions or stuff.
Yeah, so I have a few. So for Venba, so you say that they contacted you. Was there like an in between of just like I know you guys were like commenting on each other's content, but was there like something in between like them finding you and them contacting you for a job? Did they know that you were an audio designer, and like how did they find out? Did you introduce yourself as one?
Not
Did you
even
like kind of
nothing.
no, nothing?
Nothing.
So
I would just like they were small, right? This is
yeah.
before they got like thousands of followers. But when they were small, I was just commenting on their stuff a lot, and they, I guess, saw on my Twitter profile that I'm a brown South like Indian sound designer composer. By the way, I'm not writing the music for Venba, just to clear because people get confused. But I am not doing the music. We have this amazing Tamil composer. I'm solely doing the sound design. Um, but yeah, it was just they followed me back, and that was it.
Wow. So yeah, we will be taking questions for the last 20 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And while we wait, thank you, Neha, for just going through all your life with us. I know how hard it can be to put yourself out there. So thank you,
Oh no, thank you
Nate.
to you. Oh, Nate made a really good point in the chat
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
going to
yeah.
quote him for our Twitch audience. So Nate says, key insight here. Twitter accounts with small followings will see every interaction. Large ones, your interactions are more easily lost in the noise. Yeah. So Dan asks, Neha, could you say again where it was that you got your reel critiqued?
Oh, so I
Uh,
actually never got my reel critiqued. I would send
oh,
it to
you
a
didn't?
friend. No, I was too scared. So Power Up Audio was the channel I was talking about that they review reels, like people can send it to them. I was too chicken. Like I was like so scared. But I did get feedback from like a friend or two, but that's about it.
Here's the link. Um, Mags asks, how often do you update your portfolio?
Not often enough. Um, okay, I'm gonna be really honest here. Like my current reel, sound design reel, right? That's on my website, is my very first one. I never updated it because yeah. It's the same one from 2018.
I mean, that's how good it is, I guess.
I don't know. It's just like I use like because jobs are so weird, right? Like one gig wants score, but the other gig wants fairy tale music, right? Like I don't know.
uh, oh, going back a bit. So Twitter and game dev conventions are a way to network. So like, yeah. So basically, what you seem to say is that Twitter has been so like valuable to your career, and just game dev conventions such as GDC as well. Could you tell us a little more about like if you like can you think of other ways that people can get these connections when like they don't necessarily have social media or like the money for conventions? Like
Oh
is
yeah,
there
for
a
sure.
way like I know like games industry gathering you can like it's like a Discord community where you can
Yeah.
connect with a lot of devs, but do you have any other resources like that that like just anyone could join in?
Oh, so I was gonna say work with indies. I love this community.
Work
But
with indies, what's that?
I mean, if you're not too like, if you can do in-person stuff, sorry, I'm collecting my thoughts. Um, you don't need to go to the big game dev conventions. Uh, I mean, it depends on the city you live in, right? But in Montreal, like Catherine, like there was a lot of little meetups, whether it be
Yeah.
at GPS, whether it be a single studio, whether it be at the asylum, like there were just stuff happening. So I guess depending on the city you live in, it is worth Googling. I mean, that's how I found out about stuff, right? It was just sheer Google.
Age asks, is Twitch still a place to find connections with indie developers and other indie artists with all the current discourse?
At
So
Twitch?
yeah, Twitch. I've never
Oh,
heard of finding connections through Twitch. Could you specify age, like where you got this information? Twitter. Okay, sorry. I was like,
uh,
Twitch? Like
I was
we need
like,
to get on this bandwagon. But yeah, Twitter. So is
sorry, what was the
Twitter
question?
yeah, so
Uh,
is Twitter still a place to find connections with indie developers and other indie artists with all the current discourse? So like Elon and stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
would say yes.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it is. I know that people have like tried to switch social media like Mastodon and Hive, but I don't think it's getting like the traction it needs so that we like Twitter is still very present, especially in indie games. What do you think, Neha?
Same, like I got myself ready in case the Twitter world was gonna burn out, so I made my accounts on other social media platforms. but it's still just Twitter. It's not great,
Yeah.
but we make do with what we have.
Yeah, like it's unfortunate, truly. So moi or moi ask, when you work for a project, do you sign with the developers only, or do you have to also sign with the publishers?
So far, I've only ever worked with the devs themselves. They've all been thinking right now, and so far they've almost all been self-published. Currently, there's one or two with a external publisher, but I'm covered.
Cool. That's a good question. Uh, Weirdo Maxime, do you need to make a music composing reel if you already have a website portfolio of your music you made and all that? If so, how do you approach it? So I guess the question is like, what would be like the difference?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say, good that you have it on your website and on a video or something. That's great. But it depends case by case on the jobs that you're applying to, right? So oftentimes, uh, there's a gig that asks for, hey, we want horror style music, right? Well, don't send them your entire playlist with your happy music, your angry music, your rock music, right? Scoop them out, make a separate playlist just for that gig, and send that to them. Because yeah, no one has time to look, like, make whatever you do, make it easy access. So yeah, just pick it out, and it's a little annoying to do it every time, but it's worth it.
Good, good. Mags has a last question. Do you want to remain in freelance, or do you see something else for you in the future?
I'm say freelance, but as I say that, I'm actually starting part-time, like, permanent position. But that's just because it's easier that way. But no, I'm still freelancer. And the thing is, I want to sing indie games, right? And I'm a composer at heart. And yeah, I don't know of a AAA job with a composer salary and stuff. That's not really a thing.
Yeah. Uh, do I am Yam. How have indie projects paid you? Is it a lump sum all at once? Lump sum, my God,
Lumps.
all at once, or is it a repeated bi-weekly, monthly payment?
So usually what we do is that we discuss a budget, and then I usually ask a small amount upfront before I even begin the work, because I am not working for nothing. So it could be as small as just 10%, right? Just for like, hey, I want this like assurance that there is money, right? So they'll pay me, let's say the 10%, and then we agree on like, hey, after this milestone, I'll get this much. After this milestone, I'll get this much. So not, and sometimes this new gig I have, I can't really talk about it right now. It's gonna be on a retainer basis. So every month they pay me X amount. But no, I would say no one does weekly or bi-weekly because it's just too much paperwork for them.
Fair enough. Matt Vey asks, how difficult has it been to be working only with indie developers, if at all? I am unsure of how sustainable it is to only be looking for gigs that align with my values. Um, so he's a liberal. He's in liberal arts undergrad. Oh, I'm a liberal arts undergrad. Sorry, I'm a little dyslexic. Go ahead now.
Uh, I'm not sure exactly what kind of values are important for you, or if, like what it is that might be very difficult. Personally, I haven't have had like the moral issue yet. Um, but then again, like for me, it's obvious like I'm gonna flag out anything that's, racist, misogynist, NFTs, like anything like that. It's just a dick. No, like it's for me, it's so obvious that I know my lines. But other than that, I really haven't had any major issue. It's also the thing where I try to follow non-talk, like people that I know are decent, and so I have this like I guess almost an echo chamber of healthier people. Oh, sorry. One more thing I do when I get a gig or I hear about I get an offer is that if I don't know them, I will ask around. Like, hey, do you know this dev? Hey, do you know this dev? Like, I'll just be texting my friends. I'll look them up. Whatever I can do to even like stalk their Facebook, just to make sure they're not like a right winger or like a white supremacist. I don't know.
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah.
happens, right? So I will like find their Facebooks or something just to check.
Yeah, that's like great advice actually. So like if you really don't know like what the studio is, like don't hesitate to ask around. Even if you like need to ask like I don't know us work with indies like if like someone has reached out and like they've already worked with us, like don't like please don't be shy to ask around. So Val asked, how do you handle a contract as a freelancer? Do you write them or do you expect your employer to do one for you?
I've had both cases. I have my own where Hexany, wait, let me Hexany Studio in LA, they have a template that's pretty decent for most like audio people. You should look it up. I can't recall it by heart right now, but it is from Hexany. So I use that as a template. Of course, when you have more money, it's very much useful to like get a contract reviewed by a lawyer. Like everyone tells you that, but like, hey, I don't have money for that. Not currently, and I'm like relatively like stable, but lawyers are hella expensive. So that is something I want to do, just not right now. But yeah, I've had both cases. When in both cases, you should be reviewing it with a lawyer, ideally. But it's also not very realistic.
Got it. uh Matvey has another question. How have you utilized your university education piano performance in your career, if at all?
In quite a bit in many ways. I do think I have a pretty strong ear in sound design, and that's very much my musical education. I sound design music, like I could hear stuff in a decent way because of my music education. And piano has served me a lot as a composer. I don't compose, what I say is I don't compose with my ears, I compose with my hands. I just let my hands do their things, and it's like, okay, cool. So yeah, in terms of composing, my piano degree has helped me a lot. But that's just how my
That's
brain works, though. It's very like,
yeah, it's very unique to you. That sounds like amazing. Just like let your hands do the like no thinking,
nope.
just compose. uh, Dan asked Neha, "What do you think of Mick Gordon's work?"
Oh, he's great. It's too bad with the whole like crappy controversy stuff, but it's great.
So is there any question? Okay, Q. Nail sounds. Do you reckon discussing rates openly among your community hurts our community? Do you reckon discussing rates openly among our community hurts our community? I'm starting to have the feeling that dated practices caters mostly to an employer.
So I am very much on discussing rates openly. Like we must. I here you go. I charge more or less $1,000 a minute, depending on the type of music. If you're asking for like battle theme, orchestral, Final Fantasy-esque thing, it's gonna be more than 1,000. If you're asking for hey cute piano solo, that's it, then it'll be under 1,000. But my average point is about $1,000 a minute. My hourly rate is about 50 bucks an hour. Depends. Um, so yeah, I really much think that I mean it's paid transparency. We need to know, especially minorities, like what to charge. I think the thing that makes me the saddest is when people work for free. You can work for free, you must not work for nothing. And there is a distinct difference here. Working for free, you don't have to be paid monetarily. Perhaps that person, the dev doesn't have the funds, but they can help you redesign your website. Like think of bartering, right? They can help you, I don't know, maybe someone's really good at writing, so they can write your bio for you or whatever it is, right? They can help you design your business cards because they're an artist. I don't know. So that's working for free, but not nothing. Working for nothing is when, well, you're just getting nothing out of it and you're making free music. Working for free, in my opinion, is destructive to the entire community. It's destructive to game audio sustainability. It's destructive to people trying to get into the industry, and it hurts minorities the most. So I am very against not being transparent. Sorry, rant to all of that, but yeah.
It's okay, we love it. I mean, it's so important, right? And like salary transparency, I think like as time goes on, like there was that sheet that was going around during the pandemic. I think it changed a lot of like how people saw their salaries and like especially minorities. So like it's really crucial that we continue in that direction. Dan asks, would you charge less than 1,000 per minute if it was orchestral music using a sampled instrument? Example, East West Hollywood.
I mean,
Or would
I
you
could.
charge the same regardless? Sorry.
Sorry, it's very case by case. I need to know the type of genre we're writing for and everything, right? But it depends. It depends.
It depends.
Yeah, it depends on the piece, on the game, on the timeline, right? Are you giving me 2 weeks or are you giving me 2 months? Um,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
there's just so many like contexts here that I don't have. So it really it's a case by case process. My $1,000 is like the stand. Like, yeah, someone's posting. It's like the standard, but it's like an approximate because it's easy to say $1,000, right? But yeah.
ROIs ask, do you use LinkedIn? And if yes, to what extent did it help get you some gigs? Thanks a lot.
I have LinkedIn and that's about it. It hasn't really helped me get jobs. I did get a job offer. No, that's not true. I got an interview and job offer once. I didn't take it, but I think it wasn't because of LinkedIn. It just so happened that my profile was there. So it's there, but I personally don't use it that much.
Fair. So we have time for two more questions. So Matt Vey asks again, do you hope to continue working in a similar fashion long term or to transition to a different path, like doing education work in composition, becoming full time in a studio?
I don't think I want to go into education. I love teaching piano, but I don't think I want to teach composition. I feel like I don't feel good enough doing that. I think I'll just stay in freelance for the next 5 years at least, 10 years. Like, I don't want to answer 20 years from now. I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
too long. It's too far. Um, so and finally, Retro Black asks, would you use royalty-free sample loops or sounds in a song you're designing, or would you work from the ground up?
I so there's a fine line here. There's like, if you're talking about like just pure sample, then usually no. It could work in certain contexts, though. I think I've done it once where I would just cut up little bits and like mush it together. Just be careful about the copyrights and stuff like that. But I mean, do what makes you happy.
Yeah, I don't think that like using sampled sounds is bad, like especially
No.
when you can't afford to like do everything from the like, go outside and like record everything or like play every single instrument ever.
Well,
Like
for sound
some
design, I
people,
only use sample libraries, basically, though. I'm not sure
oh
if I
really?
understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sound design, okay, that's not true. For Venba, I've done quite a few recordings, but in most cases, I do everything with libraries. For music, percussions, often I use libraries, loops and stuff. Not always, but it depends. Um, but yeah, as long as it's all legal and you're not ripping off somebody's music, you're fine.
Amazing. Okay, so we're wrapping up the Q&A. There are a few other questions, Neha. If you would want to answer them on your free time, you are free to do so. But this is all the time we have. So thank you, Neha, for being with us. It was all so insightful. Thank you, chat, for being so active. And yeah, any last words, any links you would like to share, feel free to share it in the chat, and we will share them on our end as well.
Uh, Thank you everyone for coming. Please wishlist Swenva, and yeah, thank you.
Oh, let me get the Steam page. Hurry,
You're
hurry,
like, it's
Venba, Steam, hurry, Google. Okay. And someone will be quicker than me. No, I win.
you
Okay.
win! And I rant a lot about game. Yay!
Yay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I
Thank
will end
you.
the event now. Have a great weekend. Thank you again, Neha. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.